Hi guys, this is I'm Stuck, and today we are on our second episode of the Vietnam War, and today we're going to talk about the tactics used by Viet Cong. So there's three main categories I would put the tactics of Viet Cong in. The first one is to scare Americans, the second one is to please the locals, and the final one is to avoid battle against the much superior American Air Force. And American technology was superior in the Vietnam War, with all the helicopters and all the bombs and napalm and Agent RNA used, which I will talk about in next episode. But they did have a superior Air Force, and the Viet Cong did wanted to, at all costs, try and avoid this a big confrontation with them. So the first way that they tried to scare Americans was by ambushing an American or South Vietnamese patrol. Now here they would kill or capture the men in the unit. Now if captured, they would then torture this enemy before they killed them. Now this just shows the ruthlessness of the Viet Cong, which showed that people did not want to be captured by the Viet Cong, and they were a scary opposition, despite the fact that they had limited technology. Now the next one doesn't sound too scary, however it was a big issue for the Americans, and it's called, they could use stuff called Punji Sticks. Now Punji Sticks are sharpened bamboo sticks which were covered in feces, and these were placed in holes in the ground. Now this is basically a booby trap, and when Americans were walking along through the jungle, they may fall on this. Now, if they fell on this, they were so sharp that they could cause bad infections that could lead to either death or amputation. Now, this was actually a big problem, and even though they were not the most, they didn't sound too scary like now, they were extremely sharp, and they were perfectly done. Now, also, the Viet Cong managed to get jobs at US camps doing simple tasks like cleaning and cooking. Now, this is a fact that the Americans did not know where the Viet Cong were at all times, and this was quite scary because they didn't wear uniform, and you could easily have a Viet Cong person working for you and just seeing everything you've done. Now, the next thing we need to talk about is how they avoid battle. Now, the Viet Cong avoid engaging in battles with the Americans, a full-size battle, because they attacked and then retreated into the jungles and villages. And this was a technique they called hit and run. So basically, you attack quickly and then you run back before the Americans have a chance to create a big battle where the Americans would be more superior. Now, also an important aim of the Viet Cong was to remain safe from the US attack. They could not always assume that they would be safe in the villages or safe from American bombing. This meant that they built networks of tunnels below the ground in the countryside in which to live and hide. Now, it was a true fact that many Vietnamese were quite small and Americans, however, were a lot bigger, so this meant they were able to live underground. They had kitchens, toilets, everything they needed, which meant they could live long periods underground. Now, the next thing we need to do is they try to please the locals. Now, this is something that America set out to do, however, they didn't really manage to do it that successfully because of their whole bombing campaign. Now, the Viet Cong were recruited mainly from men and women who lived in South Vietnam. Now, the Viet Cong lived and worked within the villages and became part of the community. And they made sure that they treated the villagers well, which meant that they had a lot of support in all the wars. Now, any villagers suspected of loyalty to the South Vietnamese government were also executed by the Viet Cong. Now, this would encourage, although this doesn't sound very nice, it did encourage loyalty from the rest of the villagers, which meant that, of course, if you got loyalty, they respect you and they don't mess around with you, so they were trusted as a thing. Everyone liked them, and this managed to be quite good tactics, seeing they had fairly limited resources. So to sum up, basically the main things is that the Viet Cong did not wear uniform, which made them very difficult to identify. They managed to try and please the locals in whatever ways they could to try and get the full support of Vietnam, something that America find very difficult. They also used punji sticks, which was a way that they could that they managed to kill and used very effectively for the Americans, and they managed to avoid any big battles, which was also another big point. So thank you very much for watching this second episode. My next episode will be about the American tactics, which were very different to the Viet Cong tactics with their use of bombing. But for now, I'll see you soon. Goodbye.